Welcome to the Late Night Race Review. Ferrari finally go full ghost mode. Guan Yu Zhou goes full dick mode. Lando in Dreamland with 2 in a row. As Red Bull smash records with 12 in a row. It's the Hungarian Grand Prix. We wrap it up with a look at our fantasy league and our predictions game, as always. Don't forget to support the podcast by hitting those like, follow and subscribe buttons. Welcome back to the Late Night Race Review. I am Owen Scott and I'm back. And with me as always is Dave Jericho and Isidro Consalvish. We're jumping straight in today, lads. No kissing. No fancy stuff. The return of the Rick this weekend in Hungary and outperforming his teammates straight off the bat. What are our thoughts, lads? Are we happy to see Danny Rick back on the starting grid again, or should he just go home?
Our thirds. So, so my third is.
What are your thirds?
What is my third? Yeah, I'm delighted to see Ricciardo back on the grid, and I thought he had a great weekend, considering it was his first time back in quite some time. I don't know. Look, I always said I didn't think that De Vries should have had that seat. I didn't think he was maybe showed what that he had, what it took. So yeah, I thought it was great. It was great. He had a great weekend. What are you thinking on it?
Well, I was going to ask you straight off the bat there. What do you think De Vries was given enough time? I know he probably didn't deserve the seat, but was he given enough time?
Oh no, not at all. I mean, he definitely should have got the season at least to show what he could do. I mean, whether I thought or anyone thought whether he deserved the seat or not is irrelevant. He still should have got a season to prove it. I mean, I don't think there was nothing to gain or lose by having him in that seat. I don't think they were going to lose out on any sort of particular sponsorship. I don't think they were going to lose out on. There was no points they were going to gain. That car seems tripe, so I don't think they were going to really, squeeze out any points finishes different to having De Vries there. So, yeah, I think he should have got the whole season anyway, at least, and then made the call at the end of the season. But look, Daniel Ricciardo's back, so fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. Isidro, what are your thoughts on Ricciardo being back in the grid?
It's good to see him back. He did well considering that he's been away from seat, and starting on AlphaTauri today and finishing a P13. I think that's good. I wasn't expecting to see him on the top 10, to be fair. The fact that he finished the race, P13, a solid race. So more to come, I hope.
When I saw him,
sorry. Go on, Dave. Go on.
When I saw him coming in when he's look, we'll get into the start of the race and what happened and stuff like that. But when I saw him sort of early on in the race down at the back, sort of P18 and stuff like that, I was like, oh yeah, if this is where he finishes now, it's going to be like, oh, here's old Daniel back again, like yeah. So thankfully now he at least finished in the same position he started in.
Yeah, and again, outperforming Tsunoda, which De Vries wasn't doing on a regular basis.
Exactly. And Tsunoda, I'd say it's awkward for Tsunoda, though. Like, he's sort of the number one driver there. And now you've got Daniel Ricciardo, who's obviously much more experienced, who's, you would imagine, week in, week out is going to show you up. So that's going to be a bit awkward, isn't it?
Yeah. That's where we put the meme, I'm the number one driver now.
Yeah. I think a grid with Danny Ricciardo is always good. It's hard to see him away from the grid. He's always a positive around the place. He mightn't do lots of stuff in an AlphaTauri car, but it's good to have him there, and he's better on the grid than De Vries anyway.
And will he? Does anyone think he's gonna, like, what will happen for next season? Do you think they'll just have him there for the end of the season and then make a call at the end of the season? Whether they, to basically just swap him out for an F2 driver, or do you think he'll get next season out of it as well?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's not standard for AlphaTauri to take on an older driver like this. That's not their thing. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do. Where does Ricciardo go? Does he stay on the grid? It's hard to know. I think if he performs well this season, like, why would you get rid of a driver that performs well for your team? It could be Yuki under a bit of pressure, maybe.
Well, that's it. And the language coming out from Red Bull, like, is different from, like, Christian Horner and Daniel Ricciardo. It's sort of like, show us what you've got, and nothing's off the table in terms of the Red Bull seat type thing. Obviously no one's saying he's getting the Red Bull seat, but they're not dismissing it. They're sort of saying, show us what you got. Whereas Helmut Marko just he's like an Alzheimer's patient that just shovels shite out of his mouth. Whatever comes into his head, he just shovels it out again. Like he just blurts stuff out. Like he's a horrific man. And he's just saying there's no chance Daniel Ricciardo's ever getting into that Red Bull seat again. And you're just like, Jesus, dude, maybe wait and see, at least let his arse fucking warm up the fucking AlphaTauri seat first before you do that.
Again, a grid without Helmut Marko would be a very uninteresting place, I think.
Oh, Jesus, he's awful.
In a time that we need interesting characters in F1, because, as I've said before the podcast started, it's starting to get a little boring, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know the dream team would be Helmut Marko in Haas with Gunther Steiner?
Yeah. Oh God, Netflix will be jumping on that now. Careful.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, anyway, let's move on. We had a new structure this weekend in Hungary, and it was all based around the tires. Dave, we'll jump in with your thoughts. Do you think it had an effect on the weekend overall, and was it a positive change?
It was yeah, it was interesting. I think I'd need to see it done again to see whether I like it or not. Sort of like one of those things where I see the positives and I see the negatives. Positives being obviously, it's a little bit more of an even playing field where, you all have to go out on the same tire. But it's sort of maybe hindering the lower teams a bit more where they might need the soft tire to get themselves out of the bottom five, say in Q1. They don't have that anymore. They don't have that luxury to be able to put on a faster tire when, say, the Red Bulls are maybe saving the soft tire. They can go out on a hard tire or a medium tire and comfortably get through into Q2, whereas the likes of Williams and so on and so forth might need that soft tire to make that happen. That's one side of it. On the other side of it as well, then you've got cars that are set up to run and are more suited to different compounds of tire. Whereas, so you're putting on a hard tire where a car is maybe, or a driver is not maybe necessarily comfortable with that tire. So we saw that in a couple of places, and off the top of my head, I can't quite recall back to qualifying, but I do know there was some cars and drivers struggling on those hard tires to begin with. So
I think the first time they are doing this, it's still too early to have a proper opinion, but from a fan perspective, if you are if you're there this weekend for the practice, there were few cars on the road. That was one of the complaints that Alonso was talking about, that people pay a ticket to see the drivers, and some teams they barely came out because they had to save the tires. They reduced from 13 to 11. I understand the environment perspective, but I'm not sure if this allocation is right. Trying to level the field by the tires, not really the way to go.
But surely,
go on, Dave.
Each car is different, and just because you give them the same tires doesn't mean that you're going to have the same results. Most likely, better cars will still get on front. Although we had a surprise with the Alfa Romeos using this strategy.
And now will possibly be a weekly occurrence at this stage. Another record was broken by Max Verstappen, and 12 race wins in a row. Dave, are we witnessing greatness here, or is Max just the beneficiary of some nice cost cap breaking by Red Bull? What do you think?
No, it's greatness. The great team, great designers, great driver. It's just a whole package that's just happened to come together at the right time for them. So yeah, it's 100% great, just greatness. It's the same as when you saw Hamilton dominating in the Mercedes. Bottas wasn't able to, or Rosberg more often than not wasn't able to achieve what he achieved in that car. So it just shows when you get the right driver in the right car, right team at the right time, you have this sort of dominance. So as much as us as fans want to see a bit more kind of racing and battling on track, unfortunately, this is what happens when a team gets it completely right, and nobody else does.
Yeah. Cedric, can I ask you a hypothetical? Is Max's success killing the fair weather fan interest in F1? And there's no real drama in a dominant champion. Do you think this is hurting the sport, the fact that he's so dominant?
A little bit, yeah. At least until last week when we saw McLaren bringing the upgrades and putting a little bit of concern on the Red Bull. And even today, although Max was over 33 seconds, I think that McLaren and even the Mercedes today are showing a little bit. They are late, but I think they are bringing a bit more action to the race and putting the Red Bulls in check, at least until the end of the season.
Dave, do you think Max might be feeling just a little bit under pushed this season? Is there a part of his competitive edge that might be a little bit irked by how much or how easily he's winning every week?
I'd say he's he's a racing driver, so he's going to want to be battling with other drivers, but he doesn't strike me as someone who's going to turn down a world championship if he walks it either. So I think he's going to be when he wins his third world championship this year. I don't think he's going to care whether he was battling with Hamilton or Lando or the Ferraris. I think he's won. He's got another one under his belt, and that's all that will matter. But at the end of the day, it's funny. Like, drivers will always say like how much they want to be battling and how much they want to be in the mix and stuff like that. But if that sort of it comes at the cost of winning the race, then all of a sudden they don't want to be battling with everybody. They'd rather be complaining about what's Red Bull done to this car that all of a sudden now we're not winning races by 33 seconds.
Yeah, true. Do you think there's a part of Max that that Max on his off time goes down to like fight clubs or something and is just picking fights with random people in order just to feel competitive in some way?
Get his aggression out, like just randomly punches someone.
Yeah. Competing in synchronized swimming on the weekend just for the crack. Anyway, it was there was some hope when we saw Hamilton taking the pole in qualifying, but it was very quickly dashed, wasn't it, after turn one?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we were all really on got carried away thinking that maybe we've seen, and not only did we see Hamilton get pole position, but Lando Norris had the chance of getting pole position, but just had a poor final lap. So when I saw that, we were kind of like, Jesus, and Verstappen went out, wasn't able to improve. Thinking maybe this is going to be a close race. At the start of the race where we saw Piastri was sort of behind Verstappen, I was kind of regretting that. I was kind of thinking, that should have been Lando is the one that you want there. I just think he would have maybe been a bit more aggressive. But look, it is what it is.
That's the way the chips fell, and unfortunately, and Sergio Perez then coming from a bit further back, but what looked like being another week of pressure mounting on Sergio. He's come back and he's showing some form. Do you think Isidro? Do you think he's kind of rescued his reputation a little bit this weekend?
I think he's working on getting his contract renewed for next year.
Right.
And today he did a very good race. He was aggressive. He hasn't been that aggressive in previous races, so he really wanted to get to the podium today. And we saw that he fought from the P9 up to P3 with a different strategy than Max was. And he did very good overtakes, and he did a great race overall. He deserves to be on the podium today. And maybe please the gods at Red Bull that he deserves to be there for next season.
And Dave,
if he keeps fighting if he keeps fighting this the way he's doing now, I think that it'll be more interesting for us for the end of the season.
Yeah. Isidro, your cadence sometimes, you take very long pauses, and I just want to jump right in there. And I don't know if you're done or not. So sorry for jumping in there. Dave, do you think Red Bull will be looking at Sergio's performances and maybe comparing them to maybe last year, the year before, that this seems to be a constant reoccurrence with Sergio in that he'll have great performances at the start of the season, he'll kind of dip off a little bit, and then when contract talks are coming around, he starts to pick up again and just about saves his seat. Do you think Red Bull will look at it and go, okay, we need something new in here? Is this going to be the end of Sergio?
I'd nearly be surprised if it wasn't. Given how ruthless Helmut Marko is, I would be surprised if it wasn't. That being said, like, this was definitely one of his better races today. from Perez, because usually when we see him battling from the back, he tends to take a long time to get past certain cars, and he's usually sort of that middle pack before he gets to the front. That middle pack, it usually takes him quite some time to get through. But today he kind of carved through it quite quickly. So I was impressed. I thought it was definitely one of his better drives. But again, when we say it's one of his better drives, it's yet again another one of his recovery drives. So we're just saying it's one of his better recovery drives. So yeah, if I was Red Bull, I'd be thinking it would really want to improve. I think from here to the end of the season, he'd want to be qualifying well and start, and finishing strong. Like, I mean, look, even if he's not finishing second behind Verstappen, at least get your car up in the top four for qualifying and finishing, up close to the podium or on the podium each race. Because just every week since probably the second or third race of the season, it's been another Perez recovery drive is all we're talking about. So be interesting.
Isidro, do you think Red Bull are, if Verstappen keeps on winning the way he is and they easily get a constructors title, do you think they're happy enough with having Sergio there? He picks up a few points throughout the season, but ultimately he doesn't challenge Max really in any way. Are they happy with that, to let Max just run and dominate everything?
If we keep getting points, I don't think they would. I don't want to say upset, but they don't want to have a kind of Hamilton Rosberg with Mercedes where they will be fighting and crashing. So Perez doesn't mind to be second seat, doesn't want to get a fight into Max. So I think Red Bull is happy having Perez there on the second seat without fighting too hard to be the number one driver.
Dave?
But that's only good if you have, like, at the moment, Max Verstappen's winning the Constructors' Championship by himself with the amount of points that he's won. That's how dominant he's been. So having Perez perform the way he is, it's fine at the moment because Max and that car is performing so well. But I mean, say next season, if other cars catch up, I mean, we say this every year, but if other cars catch up, then it's maybe not going to suit Red Bull, because now you've got, if you have if you had two Mercedes that only finish second and third all race, Max Verstappen wins every race next season, but the Mercedes finish second and third every race next season. Well, all of a sudden now that constructors and Perez doing his recovery drives every week is not acceptable anymore. So it's only beneficial to them at the moment because Max is so dominant, but I don't think that's going to last. I think if cars start closing the gap to Red Bull, which is a huge if, because like I said, it was 33 seconds today and it's usually 30 seconds every race. So there's a lot to catch up there. But if they do, then they're going to want another driver who's going to be able to, sit on the rear wing of Max Verstappen the whole way.
On the other hand, if Max continues to be dominant, do you think Red Bull take a punt on a young driver, someone someone possibly coming in even from F2, just take a chance because Sergio's not really doing anything?
No, I think and I know it's only rumor, but they were talking about that there had been some sort of contact with Lando and Leclerc's camps. Now, again, it's rumor, but it wouldn't surprise me if they haven't sort of sounded out those drivers as a replacement for but they're talking about that for 2026. So, I mean, I think the idea is they want two competitive drivers. I don't think they want a number one and a number two who's happy to be, just sitting in the background, like, and as a wingman for Verstappen. I think they do want two competitive drivers. That's what Red Bull, that's their brand is about, like,
Isidro?
I don't think Norris and Leclerc would be happy sitting on the number two. They are number one drivers on their teams at the moment. I don't think going to Red Bull and say you just sit there and help Max as you can. I don't think that would play well with them.
That's what I think. That's what Red Bull were saying, though. They want two competitive drivers. So I think that's what they would be. If that did happen, that's what they would be sold under. They would be sort of told that there is no number one and number two. You are there if you can compete with Max Verstappen, then do it. Like, we don't want you to sit there and kind of, you're in second and Hamilton's catching. So, can you please hold up Hamilton there? So, Verstappen can make, that's not what we want. We want someone who's going to be able to challenge Max for world titles and race wins. I'd say that's what they're going to be selling on, because that's what the sort of the talk is from Christian Horner. Now, where that's what they're saying publicly and what happens behind the scenes is very different. Who knows? But it would make sense. Like I said, the Red Bull brand is sort of, it's all about competitiveness. So having someone playing second fiddle, that's not what Red Bull are about. It would be, wouldn't surprise me that they got a competitive driver in there.
Yeah, and the perfect segue. Thank you for setting me up, lads. Lando Norris and McLaren and Red Bull. McLaren with another fantastic weekend and 2 consecutive podiums for the team. Do we think that this new upgrade is secretly just last year's Red Bull car that they found around the back of the Milton Keynes facility? Is it possible, Dave?
Oh, this Aston Martin. Sorry, we're so used to being surprised at Aston Martin's pace. Now it's McLaren's turn. It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, we were only just before the podcast, we were sort of doing a little bit of a track back through some results and stuff, and they were consistently finishing outside the top 10 for the first half of the season. Then Austria, they got the Lando got the upgrades and finished P4. Then we had Silver, and then we kind of thought, well, that this might be track specific. We thought, okay, Silverstone will be the test because they'll both have it. And I think Lando got a few extra bits as well. And then I think they finished 2 and 4. I think Lando finished second and Piastri fourth in Silverstone. And you're kind of thinking, wow, okay, Silverstone again. Everyone's thinking, okay, yeah, but it's not going to happen in Hungary. And here we are. We've just watched Hungary as well. And I mean, okay, Perez was slowly catching Lando, but largely he had that second place sewn up long ago. And Perez was only catching Lando because he was burning through his tires. So those upgrades are phenomenal. I'd love to hear sort of a technical breakdown of those updates and why they're so powerful, because I mean that's monstrous. There's no other team on the grid that's done that. Yeah. Anyone, it's monstrous in such a short, literally it was like flicking on the lights. It just went from, okay, we're finishing outside the top 10. Here you go. Here's your upgrades. Oh, P4. And then we'll just tweak this a little bit. Two back-to-back P2s.
I'm half expecting some sort of a doping allegation or something going on now.
Yeah, they've been injecting Lando's arse with fucking
giving Lando a bunch of coke before he goes on the grid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of Lando, he must be on cloud 9 at the moment from what seemed to be an absolute tractor to what is a really competitive car now. He had a great race today, Sergio, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And it's funny you talking about the tractor, because he was complaining close to the end that there was a lot of cars on the road and he was having trouble passing by. He was complaining about that. And the guy saying, well, just a couple races ago, you were the one on that same position, and now he's complaining.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lando is doing great at the moment.
Did you call him Nando?
I'm hungry all
Chicken
of a sudden.
wing.
Though the upgrades are really working for him at the moment. No, not so sure about Piastri, but Lando is doing great with McLaren. It's really up there. It's not just a fluke.
Great to see. And Oscar Piastri, I think, yet again up high in the points. A decent performance, but he got caught by Perez and Hamilton. Will he feel a little bit hard done by, or was he destined to be back behind those two today, Dave?
I thought when I heard Martin Brundle and all the lads on the commentary going off about Piastri has the right to kind of be complaining, he was in the lead and now this pit stop has sort of suited Lando, and I nearly call him Nando, thanks. So it suited Lando that he came out ahead of Piastri and stuff like that. I'm like, nah, and fair play. Piastri said nothing. He was tight-lipped on the radio. He just put his head down and went about his business. He's a rookie driver. And I'm sure in the back of his head, he's thinking, I saw what just happened to fucking Nick de Vries here. I'm not saying a damn thing. You want to put me back out in P13? Excellent. I love it. Great idea.
Fair play to him. He's right up there, and geez, long may it continue.
Exactly. And sorry, just cut right. He finished P4 in in Silverstone, and I mean he finished P5 today. I mean that's for a rookie driver with a car that has only just been turned on, like literally, like so. That's fucking great. Like, I mean, you have to remember, Lando's been there ages. Lando's like he feels like he's been in Formula One for 20 years nearly at this stage, like, you know. But so for a rookie driver to be putting out, actually, when you consider what Perez is doing, how long he's been in Formula One, and what he's doing in that Red Bull, then look at what Piastri is doing in that McLaren. Conversation over. There's nobody that can argue against what Piastri's done.
Yeah, exactly. Go on, Isidro.
Try it.
I think Piastri was did very good, but could do better. I'm not sure if the fight with Checo it damaged something in the car, because since Checo fight after that, he just got slower and slower. Hamilton just passed by him. He didn't fight anything, just let him go through, and he finished 15 seconds behind the Mercedes. So I'm not sure if it was something on that McLaren's, because I think Piastri would deserve to get the P4 today.
Did you think, or do you think that Perez pushed him off?
No, it was an aggressive drive, but I don't think that. I mean, there was no penalty. I think it was just aggressive drive. He could just give up, but he just kept going behind Perez, and he should know better that even it's a Red Bull, so there's no point on fighting, because Red Bull is a faster car, even though you have a rocket at the moment.
Yeah,
I don't even know why that went to the stewards for a decision. Like, I mean, it was just racing. Like, there was nothing there. Like,
yeah, good hard racing. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Mercedes today. Both cars only seemingly coming alive in the last few laps of the race. And what do you think of Hamilton today, Dave? He did a pretty crappy start, didn't he?
Yeah, it was so disappointing. It was miserable, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was just absolutely miserable. Yeah, I just don't know what to make of Mercedes. Like, I mean, I heard at the start of the race that they've now shifted their focus to next season's car, which I always find can be, making a public statement like that midway through a season is a bit of a cop out to say this is the reason why our results are not going to improve, because we're now concentrating on next year's car. And then next year come around and they'll do shit and they say, well, we got the concept wrong again. Like, So, sorry, yeah, what were you going to say?
We've heard this before from Mercedes. Do you remember when they said they were going to focus on next year's car?
Yeah.
But that turned out?
It's every week we hear, like, either we're focusing on next year's car, or we figured out this year's car. I think we were on top of it now. It's the fucking rinse and repeat. Like, so, I feel bad though. Like, yeah, it was a bad start from Hamilton. I don't think it would have mattered one iota. I think if he had managed to take turn one from Verstappen, I would imagine he probably would have held it for the first. He probably would have held it until the DRS was active, maybe so lap 2 or 3, and then I think Verstappen would have gone past him. So that was So it was a pity. I think we were all kind of hoping that we had all had our fingers crossed that we were going to have an old school kind of turn the clock back a couple of years and have a good kind of race between the two of them. But Jesus, that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah. There was a point today, this is not to do with Hamilton now, but there was a point today when I saw Verstappen ahead, and I was just kind of hoping maybe a puncture or someone would hit him. I know that's bad.
No, exactly. I was waiting for an engine to just collapse or something like that. I was like, just please, something happen here, like just to allow something different to happen.
Yeah. But alas, it did not.
No.
Give me a rundown of George Russell's weekend, Isidro. He had a pretty poor qualifying session, and then he had to battle really hard to get back to P6 today.
Yeah, Russell is just usual. We don't see them coming, and he just finished on the points. And today was his qualifying was terrible, and today he start P18, finished P16, and slowly just going through everyone and getting the points. And he went through the Ferraris like they don't exist anymore. It was a solid race as usual.
The ghost of Ferrari.
That's what we can expect from Russell. It's always a solid race, and you barely see him talking or complaining about anything. He just wants to drive, and that's it.
Go on, Dave.
Do you know? Sorry, so I was going to say something else about Russell, and I've kind of forgotten it now because when you said about the Ferraris not existing, the Ferraris are kind of like when you play, when you play the Formula One game on the Xbox,
The ghost
and you get
mode.
the ghost mode. Ferrari have gone full ghost mode now.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh shit! I've given myself a stitch in the side.
Oh, poor old Ferrari. Oh,
that'll
gee.
be the title of the podcast. Ferrari go ghost mode.
Yeah, it's going in there now. You just gave me
Yeah.
a good one. Let's go, George. Let's not talk.
Actually,
about
sorry, on George Russell. Sorry, I was going to say something on George Russell.
that. I'll go. Okay.
His qualifying though, I think that was largely down to his he was put basically Mercedes left him so long to go out. When they did put him out to set his time, he had so much traffic that he was just getting held up, and that's why he didn't improve his time, I think. So I don't think it was necessarily him putting in a poor qualifying. I think it was actually the team putting him out on track at the wrong time. Because I believe, like I saw interviews with him at the start, and I believe he had choice words to say with the engineering team after qualifying.
Yeah, he was none too pleased. Was it Gasly that came up the inside and kind of cut him off coming into the pit straight?
Yeah, like he wasn't impressed. But I don't think it wasn't that he wasn't impressed with anything on track. I think it was more just with his engineering team. He just feels that they've made a mistake with how they put him out on track, or where they put him out on track.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go full ghost mode and talk about Ferrari. Tension today between Leclerc and the pit wall. He was a little bit agitated with them as per usual. It's turning into a real damp squib of a season for what you titled them, Dave, the Scuderia.
Yeah, the Scuderia Ferrari.
Yeah, go on. Develop on Ferrari for me today.
Do you know there's a few little bits and pieces here, and I don't know whether I'm picking stuff that doesn't exist, or I don't know whether I'm seeing things that aren't actually there because of what's going on. But to start with, I still think so. Yeah, they had Sainz on the soft compound tire who was catching Leclerc and had the opportunity of switching them around just temporarily, and Leclerc would have jumped them back anyway after the pit stop, so it would have made no difference to allow Sainz to go through and at least challenge Hamilton that was up ahead. It would have only helped them in the long run. But once again, that never happened, and I don't know whether he was told to hold station there or not, but I feel they must have been told to hold station. And then obviously we had the fucking pit stop for Leclerc, which was just, another Ferrari special. But then when Leclerc got the penalty, did you remember he got the 5-second penalty? And even the commentary made note of it as well. Because I was watching, it's like Sainz was catching Leclerc, and then all of a sudden just the time was always like 5.2, 5.4, 5.2, 5.1. It never went under 5 seconds, and I'm like, that's a bit like, I mean, surely in theory you would, if Leclerc was faster, Sainz would be dropping back to 6 seconds or something like that, or if Sainz was quicker, he'd be up into 4 seconds and stuff like that. But you're trying to tell me that both those drivers were doing identical lap times for the rest of the race? No, it looks like he was told to keep it outside the 5 seconds. Yeah. Like, why the fuck would you do that? Like,
I'd really love to hear if they just would open up all of the radio communications between the teams so you could hear the whole time
everything. Yeah, big
said.
Time. Yeah.
I don't know. I think you're right.
Do they? I think the Formula One commentary teams and stuff like that, I think they get the full. I think they have access. They're open radio waves for the within the commentary boxes and stuff like that. I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, because all teams can hear all communications with the drivers. So I would imagine that should be an option. The way that you can now select, I want to follow Leclerc and I want to watch just from Leclerc's view for the whole race.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that? But
exactly.
Anyway, but you can do that. It should also be the same that you should be able to select now that I want to hear all radio communications for Ferrari, for example, that are public communications. I think that should be. Come on, Ferrari, stop pricking around with fucking sprint races and fucking qualifying tires and stuff. Let us hear what's going on with the fucking radio communications.
Yeah, exactly. We want to hear the VAR conversations. Come on.
Yeah.
All right. Enough of the Scuderia. Aston Martin kind of settling into being a bit of a mid-table team again. Isidro, what do you think?
Yeah, Aston Martin is losing the magic. They are slowly dropping from the days of podiums to mid pack, and now just struggling to be on the top 10. And so, whatever upgrades they did to the car, they definitely are more downgrades than anything else. That's Alonso can only do so much with that at the moment.
Yeah, sad to see, isn't it? Because there was a lot of hope there for Alonso in those first few races, and then it just kind of died off, hasn't it?
Consistent podiums and then just nowhere.
Yeah, very bad. Because we did think we were going to have like maybe a Sainz or Hamilton battling with Alonso for P2 every week, but it's just disappeared, unfortunately.
Now we have Verstappen dominating P1, Lando dominating P2.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, they seem to be just well gone now at this stage, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then the one last thing before we kind of we'll do the best of the rest. This is pretty much it. The only real notable thing was the Alpine double DNF 2 weeks in a row.
And the funny thing is, though, you say that like that is probably the biggest thing that actually happened in the race.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And do you know? Actually, I'm going to roll this into the biggest loser of the race and apparently at the start of this, Scotty didn't realize that we did this for the last three podcasts in a row now. So yes, at the end we pick our biggest loser and our driver of the day. But because we're on this is going to be part of my biggest loser. My biggest loser is Zhou Guanyu or Guanyu Zhou. I mean, didn't he start P5 or P6?
P5.
Yeah,
and then hit the arse end of Daniel Ricciardo, who then hit the arse end, I think, of Gasly, was it? And then Gasly went into Ocon or whichever way it worked out.
Yeah.
But it was, it actually, like, it wasn't the Alpine's fault. Like, even though I think on the commentary, they were still adamant that he would have hit him anyway. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, when you saw the onboard and Daniel Ricciardo hit the back of it, Daniel Ricciardo was knocked into the back of the Alpine, you could see the oversteer. I think it was actually Ocon, wasn't it, who was on the track, and then it was Gasly going down the outside.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you could see then the oversteer, or sorry, the snap of oversteer, and then having to try and correct it, and then just sent him into the side of the other Alpine. So it was definitely Joe who just absolutely upended everybody there, and then he ended up down the back. I think he finished last. Didn't he finish last today?
No, 16. Last was K-Mag was the last one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But still 16th. So, I mean, that for me, there you go. That's my biggest loser. And even though Alpine should technically be the biggest loser because they both went out after lap one, I'm going to give it to Joe. Can
I make a shout that we should have a driver of the day? You can have biggest loser of the day. Can we have another one that's dick of the day?
Oh, yeah, big time. We can do whatever we want.
Because I would give that to Guan Yu Zhou, because that was a dick move. He wasn't paying attention, and he just went right up the arse of Daniel Ricciardo. And
on his debut.
Yeah, could have ruined his debut back. Like, come on, fucking pay attention,
exactly. Joe. So you've got dick of the day and loser of the day. Jesus, that's a grim headline.
Will I jump into my loser of the day?
Oh, yeah, go for it. Yeah, and then we'll do the hero of the day then afterwards.
So, yeah, my double DNF. The Alpines are the losers of the day, I think, for me. That was horrific.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Yeah, they love crashing into each other, though. All right, Isidro, go on.
Same as Dave. Joe is a loser of the day. I think he got stage fright. Being P5 among the big boys, I don't know what happened there.
But he bogged down. Did you see his start?
Oh, it's
like
horrific.
he didn't move. Like I was like, what is going? It was like a granny going down the shopping aisle trying to get the fucking beans. Like what the move?
He got stage fright. Never been P5 before, so being among the big boys, he was just afraid of moving.
More people coming by him than a fucking gangbang.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it was it's shocking. Like, I mean, you see how quick as well Bottas fucking had to quickly zip out to go past. I was like, Jesus, Bottas got an incredible start, and then when you see the replay, you're like, no, Joe just fell asleep at the wheel.
Yeah. Dave, who was your driver of the day?
Oh, okay. My driver of the day, which I'm surprised. So hang on a second. Let's go. The official driver of the day was given to Perez, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
And then Isidro, remind us of the second and third?
Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri.
So my driver of the day isn't even there. My driver of the day is George Russell.
Right.
I think
okay.
he came from 18th on the grid. I don't know. I thought like finished 6th. And I mean, yeah, I thought I'd have given him my driver of the day. I would have given it to Perez if he had managed to get that second place, but you could see he'd obviously overcooked his tires and he started dropping off from Norris, whereas Russell thought he had overcooked his tires already, but managed to actually overtake the Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, even with his tires that he thought were dead. And I was just like, do you know what? I think I'm gonna go with George Russell. I think he deserved that one.
Yeah, that's actually a good shout. You could have possibly changed my opinion, but I'm not going to go as the same. You just to be interesting. I'm going to go with Lando. I think he just had a phenomenal race today, and it's good to see him consecutively getting podiums. So yeah, I have to give it to Lando today.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm going with the masses. Perez as driver of the day.
Love copying homework, so you do.
He was very aggressive today, and he was probably the most aggressive driver on track today, fighting to get to the podium basically, and he did great on that way.
That's a fair shout, actually. Yeah, good shout.
All right. Okay, we're moving on. We're done with Hungary, and we are moving on to our predictions game. I know everybody, there is a fantasy league and fucking we don't get the results by the time we're recording the podcast. So yada, yada, yada. We post it on our Instagram when we post the podcast. So just check it out there. I'm going to actually stop. I'm going to stop with this announcement, or I'm going to just continue and make it more dreary every week.
You're just giving up on it.
And just you're giving up hope. Gone ghost mode on the F1 fantasy. All right. So, predictions game. So, Hungary. I had Verstappen P1, Perez P2, which would have given him driver of the day from me, but goose egg. And Alonso, I just thought this was, I thought this was going to be the make or break of Aston Martin. This was going to be their bounce back, and track specifics were going to be out the window, and we were going to see them back on track again. And no, they're fudged. So that's nothing for me.
Yeah, gone. Okay, my top 3 were Verstappen P1, obviously. I went to Perez P2, and then Leclerc P3.
Wow.
Yeah, that was just a random shot in the dark that I didn't have a clue what I was doing.
To be fair, though, your P3 got closer than my P3.
Yeah. Barely.
So, all right, Isidro.
Verstappen first, Perez second, Hamilton third.
So close.
Jesus. Yeah, that was close.
Only for Lando Norris.
All right. My flop was Sainz DNF. I think someone's due a proper DNF one of these days out of these teams.
Yeah.
So anyway, 0. Scotty.
Yeah, DNFs have been few and far between apart from Alpines.
Alpine are racking them up.
But so I don't think it's really a flop if you call for an Alpine DNF. I think that's just actually,
guaranteed. You'd have to call the lap just to get it.
All right, mine was Alonso outside the top 10. I mean, I was close.
You were close, yeah.
Didn't happen though.
No.
Me was Piastri outside top 10.
Wow. That
was halfway.
Yeah, that was not good. All right, my surprise was, I don't know why I put how is this a surprise? I know because we called the position, right? Lando P5, so I got a goose egg on that one. But
yeah, I said Lando P4. Yeah,
said Alonso P4.
Well, so we wow, there's a lot of zeros. There's a lot of zeros on that page. So the only thing we all got right was the sure thing, which was Verstappen.
Yeah.
Jesus,
that's horrible. You can see why we're so far down the fantasy league table now.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's tot up the points, and that's we shared the spoils. So I'm on 6. Scotty, joint in second place there. 6.
Joint in first. Thank you very much.
And Isidro is last on 5th. All right. So what do we got coming up next? Belgium, Spa. Right.
Spa.
My top 3. I had a politically incorrect joke there, but I'll move on.
Yeah, leave it.
Top
Leave it.
3 is Verstappen. We need yeah, never mind. I was trying to soften it down.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going with Perez P2,
Damn it.
and it's hard not to put him there in P3. Lando, Nando.
Jesus.
Have we all gone the same fucking
We've
thing?
all gone the same. Right, I'm going to change it up. I had the exact same thing. So
I'm glad I got to call it first. Like,
right, I'm going to go because I do think that Perez is going to make a comeback now. Comeback. So Verstappen P1, I'm going to go just out of interest Norris P2.
Yeah,
and I'm going to go Perez P3.
That's fair. It's fair. Isidro.
I have to
Verstappen
change now
P1.
again.
You don't have to. I mean, you can all go the same, but I mean, it doesn't make it for
Verstappen, Perez, and Hamilton.
Jesus.
All right, okay.
Hamilton. So the
Oh.
same as last week or this week.
Yeah, it's same as last week for him.
Imaginative.
Imaginative.
Isidro just went, I got to change it. What can I change it to? Ooh.
I see something.
All right. So, right, my flops first. Sorry, I was going to go for surprise. All right, my flop is going to be Leclerc DNF because they're due one. I'm just going to call it Ferrari DNF all season until that happens.
Yeah, that's a good shout. My one's a big shout. And this would be amazing if it happens. But I'm going to go yet
I like the sound of
again
this.
a double DNF for Alpine for a third week in a row.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'm
All
going
right,
big air.
Alpine double DNF. Oh yeah,
Wouldn't
like
it
that.
be class?
That would be savage. Yeah. I'd give you I'd ask you for the lotto numbers on that one. That'd be great. All right, Isidro, are you going with Piastri outside the top 10? You still looking at last week's?
No, Alonso outside top 10.
Okay.
Ooh, that's
Alonso.
a little bit more possible now.
Yeah, he
Alonso.
finished 5th, 7th, and 9th today. So
It's on
Yeah.
the way.
probably finish 11 on Belgium, but let's just say outside top 10.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
shout.
I think that's a safe one now. All right, my surprise. I'm going fucking now. This is going for full air on this one as well. Like, I'm going for Daniel Ricciardo
Oh,
inside the top 10.
yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
Not expecting too much of that AlphaTauri.
yeah, I know, but
Not
I'll go for
impossible. Tsunoda made it twice.
And you know what he's going to do? He's going to wipe out the 2 Alpines first and then go on for victory.
Give me points.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I was going to go for something else, but I think I've changed my mind now. I'm going to go for Bottas inside the top 10. I was going to go for Albon top 10, but that's just, it's been done so many times. So
Yeah, although they haven't looked, and the fact now that I don't know.
Go with Bottas top 10. Go with Bottas.
I think it's more likely that a Bottas top 10 happens than an Albon top 10.
Well, it depends. If they do the qualifying that they did this weekend, next weekend, then I have a feeling that the Alpines or the Williams are going to start probably in the sort of the back end of the grid. So yeah, I think Isidro's right. I think I think you're right. I think it's more likely that Bottas will get into in top 10. All right, Isidro, what do we got?
Albon top 10. The classic.
Isidro just switches off his brain on a Sunday. He's like,
Oh, Mr. Excitement. Alonso, our Albon top 10 finish.
as if F1 wasn't boring enough already.
Belgium is a fast race for the Williams. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
No, it is true. But I think it comes down to the qualifying format. I don't know.
it's a sprint race weekend as well.
Ooh,
Didn't realize that.
interesting.
Shit.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's going to change my plan. It will, however, change what I'm going to do in the F1 Fantasy League that we don't have the results for yet. But all right. Well, that's I think that's us.
That's us.
That's it. All right. Well, join us. We're back next week for the Belgium Grand Prix, and then I think it's like a 3 or 4 week break. Then for after that. So and we will be taking a 3 or 4 week break.
We're all going on our summer holidays. Sorry, go on, Dev.
Yeah, not your grand. I wasn't going to join in with you. I was just going to let you die alone. All right. Well, until next week, we will see you then.